Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Small Business Stories. You know me, you know the voice, Loralyn Mears, aka Dr. LL. Every week we've got all kinds of stories from small business owners and entrepreneurs who have, well, they've lived to tell the tale. And so today with us, we've got someone dialing in from Montana. We're in the middle of the winter, and believe it or not, it's warmer there than in New Jersey today. So go figure. But anyway, we've got Jack Clark, the founder of 180 Water. Jack, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's always exciting when you get to talk to people who are doing something that seems so ordinary, it's extraordinary. So, talk to us a little bit about the impetus behind getting into the water pump filtration and services business. It's not like people wake up one day and go, you know what? I think I'm going to build wells, make sure water is filtered properly, and go for it. How did that happen?
Well, so I grew up in a little small town in Montana, of course, and my neighbor was a water well guy, and so it was always kind of had my interest. I mean, his life always looked a lot more structured than ours did on the ranch. So it was a little bit, he took weekends off and had a more of a work-life balance than we did as cattle ranchers, and so I always kind of envied him in terms of being able to have that. I mean, his equipment was always clean, his stuff was always put away, and so I just took notice to it, and kind of spiked my curiosity, and I liked that kind of organization side of it, and the way that he was able to operate his life, and so I approached him as I graduated high school and decided to kind of push into the water well industry. So.
Excellent. Now, we talked a little bit, like in 2 seconds, about the weather. And because it's
hmm
still cold there, I would think your business has seasonality to it. Does it? And if yes, how do you manage revenue during that off season?
Oh, we had a little slight hiccup there, but
Okay, did you hear me? Let me repeat the question again here.
sure.
So, Jack, we briefly alluded to how freaking cold it is. So that makes me
hmm
think that your business might have seasonality to it. You can't really dig for wells or things like that when it's minus a million degrees outside. So, what do you do in that off season to keep your employees paid and manage the presumably lower income coming in during those off seasons?
hmm Yeah, we shift into more household stuff in terms of the filtration side. Filtration has been a really consistent product in the wintertime to keep us really busy. And then we manufacture too. And so we take some of our drill crews and put them on our manufacturing side of Pump X to be able to keep everybody moving forward. But, when it's a nice day of, blistery 20 degrees, then we're out drilling. I mean, it's hard because our customers need water and we need to supply it. So we're always busy. But in the off season, we just do as much as we can, but sometimes it's not as much as we usually do. So.
Got it. Now, you've talked about manufacturing. So, what's that like running a manufacturing center and business within the United States right now? We've got everything, and again, we never get political on the show. That's not our bent,
hmm
but everything from volatility and tariffs to access to supplies and materials, that must make it pretty tricky to be able to manage your supply chain. So, how are you getting around all of that?
Well, I mean, we're fortunate because a lot of our stuff does come from the United States, so we're not really, super in the tariff world, and we haven't really had those, big hiccups. We've had some stuff that comes out of our northern neighbors out of Canada here that, everybody's been really good to us. I mean, we're just a straight up honest company that, follows the rules, and so I mean, it adds another rule to follow, but it hasn't really seemed to affect us too much. So.
Do you think the fact that you're headquartered in Montana has something to do with how people treat you with congeniality versus I'm over here in the Northeast, New Jersey, New York? I find people are really tough on vendors from this area. Think
Mhm.
there's any truth to the difference?
Well, I think, as a Montanan with these kind of values, I think it's, you know, it's definitely has a big core part of the way that we operate. I mean, we will not sign a franchise agreement until I look you in the eye and shake your hand. And that's the way that we're going to operate. And that's the way we're going to do business. And if we don't like it, then that is what it is. But that's the way that we do it. So we're kind of old school that way. I mean, we have contracts and are obviously very organized and federally regulated, but at the end of the day, that handshake and eye contact means a lot to us.
Gotcha. With respect to franchising, it sounds like you want to control it. I just had on earlier this week a guest on my podcast. He's the founder of Franzi, which is a
Mm-hmm.
franchising company that makes it available to not only potential franchisees, but investors. And he's experiencing explosive growth because people like how buying into a franchise still gives them the opportunity for entrepreneurship that they crave, but it de-risks a lot of it because the reputation is established, some of the standard practices, et cetera. All of these things are done, the brand reputation, marketing, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think that franchising is something that a lot of companies should look at in order to promote their own growth? Or do you think it's really not for everybody?
I think that was a tough one. So, like the things that I looked at in terms of the measurements that make the water well industry kind of fit that is that, we might be a larger, 15, $20 billion industry, but nobody owns more than 5% of it. And so it's a really mom and pop kind of niche market that is very generational. And I think that's what kind of makes it a good fit is our customers are used to dealing with smaller companies. I mean, an average water well company is 5 to 8 employees. And so we kind of tried to tailor all that into the franchise model of, let's set these up, let's set the territories up so they can have 5 to 8 employees and be a really standard water well company. But let's work together to try to increase our knowledge base, deliver a better product to our customers, and then also have the benefits of being a larger company, buying power, market cap, and be able to put all this advertising and all these things together to get the best of both worlds, if you will. So, and I mean, our franchise model has been very successful in terms of all our locations are doing really well. And I mean, I think our guy in Billings that started 2 years ago is already at 75-star reviews on Google. And that reaction to that intimate of it's a small business and we're here and we care about you is really important to our model. So we're really, really focused on owner operators.
Excellent. You're really building something like deeply meaningful, right? And personal,
It
of
is.
course, with you behind it
Mm-hmm.
at 180 Water. But you've also talked openly about you're a father. So
I
when
am.
those two roles compete for your time and energy, how do you decide what enough on either side looks like on any given day?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the beautiful thing. When you work as much as humanly possible, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like what I mean by that is I have my max amount. I'm home every night for dinner with my children and my wife. And I might leave before they're awake in the morning, but I'm always home in the evening. And that's my balance. And we travel a lot. It takes a lot for me to be able to kind of unplug. So I usually just have to leave to quit working. So my wife's actually very patient with me, but with that, I mean, there's only so many hours in a day and there's only so much you can do. And so as long as I can fill that productively as possible, which for me is basically meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to work with all my different teams to be able to move forward is the way that we structure it typically. So my time is very valued. And it's almost easier at this size than it was when I was wearing more hats. People are very respectful of my time and it's a blessing. So
I think that segues and almost answers my next question. But in a recent podcast you did in the fall of 2025, Dr. Breen, you talk about, hey, I'm a workaholic, right? You own the
mhm.
label. And there's been a lot of flack from especially Gen Z rising up through the ranks who is craving soft life, right? They talk about
Mhm.
that all the time. They want nice amenities around them, lots of time for bubble baths. They want to eschew hustle culture, all this sort of stuff. So you've chosen and embraced work that meets a real
Mhm.
need, right? But what is that emotional cost of caring so deeply? And how do you keep that from hardening you or burning out? Because that's the exam question. Everybody's like, okay, I get it. Passive income is a farce, right? You've got to do a lot
Mhm.
of work until you get to passive income. It doesn't happen overnight. Hashtag viral. So how do you balance all that so you don't burn out and just get hardened?
Yeah, right. So like definitely one of my goals when I first started out was like we all see that contractor or somebody like myself that has worked too much and he's angry and hates the entire world at 40, right? And so one of my goals was to make sure that we I didn't hate the world and I was happy in my life. And I've really stayed true to that. And I refuse to work with people I don't like. And that's a good start. I mean, there's a reason that we shake hands, look each other in the eye and make sure that, hey, we get along and we like each other and we respect each other. And that's the first step. And so, and then, there's lots of little things that we do, in the company too, to make sure, we call them stupid rules, and we don't do stupid rules, where if we're making rules, to restock the paper towels in the bathroom, then we have the wrong people on the bus. And so we make those shifts and we make sure that, we keep our company running with a side to side accountability so the guys can help me accomplish that culture, if you will.
Gotcha. Has someone who had a fatal attraction business partner? Yes, I get it, right? So, what boundaries have you had to learn? You talk about, okay, evenings are yours, they're yours with your wife and your children, and you take
Mm-hmm.
vacations and you unplug. Did you have to learn those the hard way, or did that just evolve from the beginning and saying, look, I'm going into business and embracing entrepreneurship so that I have that freedom? Tell us about that approach, that
Yeah,
journey.
so my wife is actually a veterinarian. So we got married, 22 years old, and then we were 5 years of long distance. And so
Oh,
it really kind of made that like totally dive in and like totally, I could totally 100% focus on my work and overdo it to every level in terms of, I can work 16 hours a day, no one's home, everything's good. And then I could unplug from that and shift into I'm strictly with my wife, and I can fully engage in that aspect of it. So it kind of, it allowed me to kind of build that structure in at an earlier age that, have those clean lines, and I think the cool thing about the franchise model is, we say it a lot here, is like we try to get it to the point where it was year 5, year 6, where I can lay down in bed at night and know that everything's done. And those checklists are done. My invoice is correct. My bills are paid. My parts are marked up and everything is correct. And I think that like, that's the key to franchising, is to be able to take that deep breath and go, it's Saturday and I'm home with my kids and everything is done. And you have
yes.
that structure and that, it takes a long time as a business owner to get to that point where we're getting these guys there really quickly. And that's a huge blessing. That's something that we get to deliver. And I think that's one of my favorite parts of 180.
How are you doing that? That's the exam question.
Yeah. Structure, right? So like it all comes to structure. Like here's your steps. Do your steps every day. If your steps are done every day, then it's all done. Everything's done. And it's just a few steps, You do the job, you answer the phone, you estimate, approved, build the job, do the job, out the door, everything's done. And just to have those things, all your marketing's handled, all your inventory's handled. I mean, all those things are all done on the backside. So you can check those boxes.
Gotcha. I want to talk about rural life and clarity
Hmm.
because one of the things I'm seeing in abundance, sadly, is a lot of small business owners slash entrepreneurs are spinning, especially now here, even in the beginning of 2026. They're in a full state of overwhelm given what's going on globally. They're letting that affect them personally. They can't get access to small business loans, even business card credit. Lots of clients are reneging on the money that they
Hmm.
owe, so vendors are accumulating bad debt. All this
Hmm.
stuff is happening. Lots of churn, lots of stress. And I see it because, like, I'm here in the Northeast, right? New York, New Jersey,
Hmm.
and it's pretty intense. Do you think that because you live in rural Montana, right, a town of 1,800 folks, far, far, far from the noise and all the nonsense, right, that most of us as founders swim in, that this physical distance from hustle culture has changed how you can look at success and growth and let you focus on what really matters because you're not impacted by the intensity and the noise? Do you think that's
Hmm.
helped?
Oh yeah, I mean, to be able to stay centered. I mean, when I
Yeah.
drive down the road and I don't see another car, you know what I mean? Like
I
there's a
can't
certain
imagine.
amount of it.
No.
There's a certain amount of it. I'm not getting stuck in traffic. I'm not, you know, I live 3 miles away from my office that looks at a beautiful lake. And so like it's just very different, and I think it's nice to be able to wake up, have a cup of coffee and watch the sunrise, and it's just, so yeah, I think that there is a difference to that, but and for like all the business owners out there that might be listening, I used to have those worries. I used to go to bed at night and couldn't sleep because I was worried about something, right? And then one day I just decided I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do the best I ever could. It sounds corny, it sounds simple, right? I'm going to wake up, I'm going to do my absolute all. And then I lay down in bed at night and go, Jack, did you do your absolute best today? Yeah, I did. Well, guess what? I sleep like a baby, you know? And just those small mental shifts of like, hey, it's 6 a.m. I'm going to give it everything, you know? And when I go home at 5, that's it. That's all I can do. And have those things in your mind that allow you to say, that's it. I've done it. I did my best. Yeah, it might not be what I wanted to look like, but it is what it is. I did my best. And as long as you do that every day, you can sleep with that confidence and know that, you know, you're doing it all.
Oh, God. It sounds dreamy. As someone who drives with a bumper buddy on the back of my car, which are these rubber, thick, thick flaps that you hook into your trunk because everybody's always doing little fender taps. Takes me half an hour to go to the grocery store and,
Wow.
and forget about it when I'm on the New Jersey Turnpike. Like it's beyond. It's beyond. I
Yeah.
can just feel my blood pressure just going up, up, like I'm going to lose my mind. Right?
Yeah.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, it's funny because I mean, it's all perspective, right? Like I was just visiting with my driller that's you know, working in a small town an hour away from the shop and we were talking about like, man, that's such a cool little town. We could move there and probably drill 40, 50 wells a year and man, would that just be a great little life? But like it's not us. You know what I mean? It doesn't make a big enough impact on the world to be able to do that. So, I mean, and like what you're doing is making an impact in the world. So, you know, that's the you got to have a bumper buddy to make sure that you can accomplish that every day. And so some of that comes with some uncomfortability for sure.
Oh, for sure. Right. And that's just it. I really, I don't know, focus. It's almost become like a soapbox where
Hmm.
there is no hashtag viral, right? Overnight success, at least not for me and the hundreds of
Yeah.
guests that I've had on this show. Many have achieved significant revenues, 50, 100 million plus dollars per year. They have obtained
Hmm.
partnerships in very prestigious venture capital firms, consulting firms, all the sort of the good stuff, government levels,
Yeah.
all kinds of things. Uh,
Hmm.
One person I had Bobby Brown on, makeup mogul, right? She's made, I don't know, a billion, whatever it is, some ungodly number. But one of the things that they all agree with is that it did not come easy. They had to pay a
Hmm.
price, whether it was time with their family, whether it was maybe it ended up in a divorce situation with their
Hmm.
spouse, maybe whatever else. They missed birthdays with children. They really lost their way. They got unhealthy,
Hmm.
gained 40
Yep.
pounds, all these kinds of things. They say there's a
Hmm.
price, but that they're so happy that they got to the other side, even if they don't have hundreds of millions in revenues. And they're like, I
Hmm.
did it. I'm proud of what I've built. You
Hmm.
think that's fuel?
Yeah. They did their best every day and they
Yeah.
know it, you know?
All
Hmm.
right, let's turn to some questions here, like about your children. Of course, not getting nudgy. I never get
Hmm.
in there and private and dig, but you've talked about being a father. And so
Yeah.
what I'm thinking about is that a lot of people go into entrepreneurship slash small business ownership, which are different, that
Hmm.
they do it because they want to create generational wealth.
Hmm.
That's one driver. But I want to
Hmm.
think about the other side of it is what do you think 20 years from now? I don't know the ages of your kids, not asking any of that, but what do you think when they reach that point of adulthood, mid 20s, right? When the brain is just pretty much fully formed and they can process emotion and experiences and things like that, fully functional adult, right? When they're in their mid
Hmm.
20s, what are they going to say? Not about what you built, but about who you were and what you've created. What do you think their reaction is going to be?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that me and my wife talk about, right? Like our kids are raised in such a different world than I was. Like, you know what I mean? I woke up, I fed cows, I fed chickens, I went to school, I came home, I did it again. Like it was just, you know, a different kind of life compared to what we do now. But I think at the end of the day that, you know, wake up, go to work, work hard, do your best every day is still something that we need to be an example of our children. You know, and I think it's kind of I think the stage of life that concerns me with my children and my is not this like grow, 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 and continue to push what we're currently doing. And I'm working very hard. It's if that ever planes out and I get to the point where I'm not working 60 hours a week and being that example. You know what I mean? I think like that's more of my concern is that like once we kind of plateau, how do I continue to be this excellent example? Um, and I think that gets tricky in that early 20s age. And I hope that they're really proud of what we accomplish. And as you know, as any entrepreneur, there's always going to be times where you know you did your best, but maybe some people didn't agree with what you did, and there's always going to be those things. But I hope that they know that their dad was always a good man.
Right. That's the key legacy that we all want, right? Be
Hmm.
recognized as that good parent. It's nice to bring some
Hmm.
success and some financial, I guess, latitude, with all of that. But really, at the heart of
Hmm.
it, we want to be generally, right, as people, proud of who we are and the relationships that we've built.
Yeah.
With
And I
with
never
res-
want to take it away from my children either. You know what I mean? Like I want them to have the opportunity to be able to do it on their own, like I did. And I think that struggle is really important.
Do you expect that your kids will take over 180 Water?
I don't think so. I think that they'll find their own niche in life. I'm very dyslexic. My children are young, and so I don't know if they're going to be dyslexic or not at this point. But I imagine that they probably will be, and so I think they'll have their own passions in life. So.
I think that affords children with a lot of growth and freedom that they
Hmm.
need. I spend a lot of my time mentoring rising entrepreneurs at many ages. I'm not talking about high school kids, do some of that too, but I mean, even people into their 20s and 30s where they're under pressure to consider and to continue their dad's business and they don't
Hmm.
want it. And
Yeah.
so my mentoring calls end up being routed and looking something more like emotional support therapy session, which of course I'm not a
Hmm.
qualified counselor, but they want to talk about that because they don't know what to do. They're really conflicted. They know that their father has spent all their time growing up, didn't see the dad because he was doing this, the business, whatever else, and they're expected to
Hmm.
take it over. The business is thriving, or a lot of times it's not. And they're expecting, hey, this young new generation can apply technology and different approaches to be able to raise the business up, but the kid doesn't want it.
Hmm.
And so I think it's very empowering that you're raising your kids to say, yeah, you know what? You get to do what you want to do, right? It's your
Yeah.
path. This was mine, but you choose yours.
Well, and I think I felt that pressure. I mean, coming
Mhm.
from the agricultural side, it's not, these ranches do not pay for themselves in terms of just a basic investment. I mean, if it's $1 million ranch, the cattle could afford, a $500,000 ranch, and we need $1 million ranch to be able to run that many cattle. And so it's always been tough because you always kind of had to have a start in agriculture. And so I think that pressure of making sure that you maintain that ranch that, the cattle can't pay for, but that's your career is running those cattle gives you that kind of, same pressure as we could accidentally give our children and taking over the family business. So,
I see a lot of parenting threads now where parents have gone to that softer side and they are not requiring that their children do any chores. The children, oh, you
hmm.
still get your DoorDash bill, your Uber, your whatever, this, that. You want to go movies, this, that, whatever you're doing. Oh, Amazon, yeah, click here, put it on the credit card. No
Hmm.
chores required in exchange for said allowance. Just go do and
Hmm.
go buy. Do you think we should be shifting to help children to enable them better by giving them chores? Like you said, you grow up, woke up, fed the chickens, fed the cattle, did whatever you did,
Hmm.
went to school, came back, did it again. Do you think that that instills a work ethic that's missing from a lot of today's rising folks?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean if I don't feed the chickens don't, they don't live. And so that kind of pressure is, I think agriculture is an important part of instilling that in the children. I mean, there's accountability with it. Um, and so, yeah, I think it's important to, kids have chores and responsibilities. And if those responsibilities don't get done, then there's a side effect of that. So, yeah, I think it's important to have accountability, but, I think it's good to be a good example too. I mean, my little girl's too young, but she walks the trash can down to the end of the driveway with me every time because she wants to be a part of it. So is it more work to have her help me? Absolutely, but it's totally worth it at the end of the day. And I think just letting your children see that side of life is important.
Uh, Absolutely agree. So, as we're nearing the end of our show here, Jack, what would you like to tell our listenership. We've got a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners at all levels. Some are just
Hmm.
thinking about starting a business. Others, as I said, they're in the tens of millions of dollars of annual revenues. What do you want to say?
Hmm. It's an interesting one with such a widespread, you know. But I think we all find a way to be happy at our own pace, and it's always about what we're working towards. And I think that that's an important part of 180 and our other employees and everything here is that everybody's moving up in the world. And as long as you're on the uptick, you're on the right path, and that enjoyment of enjoying the road of the uptick is important. You know, I mean, the guys that got to 100 million, they could have laid off at 10, but they wanted that thrive to be able to push up to the 100 in that path. And so I think to make sure that we, continue to do the best we can every day and know that we're on an uptick path is really important.
All right. Where can people find more about you, Jack Clark, 180
Mm-hmm.
Water? Where can they go?
180waterfranchising.com. I mean, we're just a small business, so we have a lot of information there about me, my life, shoot, my cell phone number's probably there. So, you know, so we're very easy to get in contact with, and we're always here to help.
And that is terrifying on that contact level. Every once in a while, one of my friends will Google me and they'll go, "Lore." I'm like, I know. Just don't even tell me. I don't want to know.
Right. Yeah,
Right? It's scary. All
it
right.
is.
Signature question as we wrap up the
Mm-hmm.
show. If we got to peek into that Montana ranch closet of yours and we got to look at some footwear or clothing accessory, something that personifies who you are, Jack Clark, and you're that like, yep, this is my signature. This is who I am. I feel like $1 million when I wear this, and this is why I do it, why I love whatever it is I'm wearing. What is it?
Oh, honestly, it's nice when you get to take off the button-up shirt and put on your muck boots and your jeans. And I wear cotton rope and gloves, and usually a Carhartt coat, and I get to go work cattle and shift gears that way back to my roots. I think is definitely a part of me, and being able to kind of get back out and to where I started. And I think that's I would say that would be the signature point. So.
Excellent. Well, with that, this is the end of our show. Jack Clark, founder of 180 Water from deep in the heart of Montana. Thank you so much for being on our show today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.